Hey guys, I'm back, and today I'm going to be starting a new YouTube series basically. So I'm really into Marvel and the Avengers, and I have a lot of opinions about them because I've seen the movies each 5 times. So what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to just basically tell my opinions, my thoughts on it, positive and negative. But due to the fact there's 25 movies and 4 TV shows already, I'm going to try to catch up everyone on my thing. Instead of having 25 videos on this, I will make one video on each phase. So this was phase 1, the next one will be phase 2, and further on. So today is going to be phase 1, and we're going to be in chronological order. So that starts with Iron Man. And I'm gonna, my order of Iron Man would be the theme of Iron Man and my opinions on it, Iron Man's relationships with Obadiah, Rhodey, and Pepper, Obadiah and the villain himself, and then just kind of Tony Stark evolution of building Iron Man in that one film. So let's start before I get myself ahead of time and not make this episode an hour long. So let's start with his theme. The theme is basically Tony's self-journey on changing his legacy. He used to be what he was known as the Merchant of Death. He wasn't a good guy. He was selfish and arrogant, and he didn't care who he hurt in the process, and he just didn't think very well on his actions. And then he's kidnapped by the Ten Rings, which we now know was run by Mandarin and Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings. And you can see after seeing so much death and Jensen's death himself, he wanted to change himself for the better. He couldn't continue to live without knowing what he was doing was wrong. He thought he was protecting people, but he was wrong. So it's his journey about trying to become a better person and do something good with his engineering skills and his power and his money. So that's what I do enjoy about this movie is it's relatable. Some people start off as a bad person and then they see what they've done wrong and try to become a good person, which Tony did. He became a good person. He's literally saved half the universe after sacrificing his life and snapping his fingers, which is such a contrast from the first 20 minutes of this movie of where he missed his awards, he gambled, which he still probably does, he drank a lot, and he just didn't care about anyone but himself. And then he proceeds 10 years later, more 15, to snap the fingers of the gauntlet and save half the universe but lose his life, which is such a huge contrast. And basically, so that's my thoughts on the theme. Now his relationships. This one's a very short relationship with Jensen, who he was in the cave with. Jensen helped him a lot. He literally helped Tony build that Iron Man suit. He gave him the idea of the arc reactor in his chest and saved him. And it's unfortunate that we never hear Jensen throughout the movies ever again, except briefly when his home country is being hurt and Tony goes there and saves him. And then Iron Man 3 in the very beginning in the flashback, we see him just slightly. I think he had maybe a minute of screen time, but it is unfortunate that it isn't heard of again because he was such important to Tony becoming such a good guy because he realized Jensen helped him realize he needed to change himself. But let's Rhodey. I don't like Terrence Howard's portrayal of Rhodey, in my opinion. I prefer Don Cheadle's, I think his last name is. But no hate. I still like Rhodey. He's one of my favorite side characters. In the first one, he doesn't play as big. He plays a big role, but Tony sometimes doesn't listen to him, which that's Tony for you. But he kind of pushes off his concerns, which he does a lot with other characters like Pepper. Like, the one scene they're on a plane, and he's like, I don't want to drink. But he ends up convincing him to drink, and he gets drunk. Like, he doesn't listen very well to other people's concerns. That's before, obviously, he was kidnapped. And then he still, like, carelessly, like, affected his job by going to military bases, which I understand because they weren't doing a very good job protecting him. But probably should have warned Rhodey, because in the end he almost got shot down by 2 fighter jets. But besides that, his relationship with Rhodey gets better over the course of the movies. Same thing goes with Pepper. Pepper, I'm not a huge fan of their relationship in the first movie. Or, not a huge fan of the relationship till, like, Infinity War and Endgame, actually. Like, he totally blatantly disregards her emotions a lot of times in this movie. Like, when he asked her to remove the arc reactor, like, he was very chill about it. Like, he stressed her out. He was stressing her out. She's like, I don't want to do this. He made her do it, and he, like, made her go in, like, a panic attack when she accidentally removed a metal thing, causing him to go into cardiac arrest. But I didn't like the relationship. I feel like he'd only started liking her because she was the only one with him, which I get that. Like, I can see why he liked her, but, like, their relationship is good, but he should have treated her better, and she should have treated him better. I think they both have bad characteristics that just went against each other, but they did have good characteristics that went well with each other. And then Obadiah Stane, the villain. I liked him as a villain. I did not expect him to be the villain when I watched the first time. But I am glad they have him in it, because the original villains, like the Ten Rings who kidnapped him, they were good, but they didn't have that pow like Obadiah Stane had when he betrayed Tony. Because it gives that auto betrayal. Like, Tony was connected to Obadiah. Like, Obadiah helped him when his father passed away. They were partners in Stark Industry. And we do get that first betrayal when he said he's been dealing under the table for Stark Industry against Tony's wishes. But then when he paralyzes him with that little instrument he has, that's when you get the full thing, and he takes the arc reactor out, and he reveals what he did. He paid money for the Ten Rings to kidnap him. And it probably, I think, slowly leads to, like, Tony's trust issues, which he already had them in the beginning, obviously. But this one gave him a big one, and not let people get close to him, because someone he was very close to for many years betrayed him, tried to kill him, and then tried to take his life mission, Iron Man, and make it a villain too. So that's my opinion. So that's my opinions on Iron Man. I do have probably more, but connecting to other movies. But I do not. I've already made this one a bit long, and I do not want this video to be 2 hours long, an hour long. I will try to make it as short as possible, but the next video will be Iron Man 2. Bye, guys. Hey, guys, it's Taylor, and I'm back with Iron Man 2. I am gonna say this, a little warner. Iron Man 2 is one of my least favorite Marvel movies. It's not number 1 on my least favorite, but it is very close second. There is one movie in the whole Marvel franchise I do dislike the most, but I'm not going to tell you who it is, because I don't want to spoil it for you. So you have to watch all my videos to find out. But let's start. There are things I like about this movie. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to just say I hate this. And it's not a bad movie per se. I've seen worse. I've watched many movies. This is definitely not the worst movie I've ever seen. But let's just start this off already with the things I do like, because they're not the very longest. Number 1, Natasha Romanoff. You can't blame me. It's her. I'm not a huge fan on, like, how her character is portrayed in this movie. She doesn't become, like, the greatest superhero till near the end when her identity is revealed and she kicks all those guys in the Justin Hammer facility. I like her character a lot better. They over-sexualize her. And, yeah, but that's unfortunate, especially because she's our longest superhero in Marvel. But I do love her character and the introduction of her. So, that's one thing Iron Man 2's got on my side. Another thing, it's hard. I like Rhodey. I'm trying to think. I'm sorry, it's taking me a second to think of what I like. Rhodey, I do like him more in this movie. He's not in the other one, like Terrence Howard's Rhodey. He kind of let himself get pushed around by Tony. Like, he would say no, but end up doing it anyway. Don Cheadle's Rhodey's like, cutthroat, nope. And he says no. Which I like about it. He stands up for himself. I might think of other things I like from now, but they're like, I like them, but they have like a downside. So, let's get into the downsides. Oh, never mind. I'm sorry if this video is messy. It's me talking, and I haven't written no notes. I am literally just talking. The iconic scenes, there are very iconic scenes in this movie I do like. We have, like I said, the Black Widow fight scene. Tony Stark developing a new element. And there's one scene in particular I like with a character I don't like. Justin Hammer. I don't like him. But the one scene I do like him in is when he is showing Rhodey all those weapons. And he's like describing them, and like Rhodey's like this. And he's like, alright. And he keeps moving on. I do like that scene. Alright, now we're going to things I don't like. Tony Stark. I didn't like him in this movie. Tony is one of my favorite characters. I don't like him in this movie at all. I get he is dying from palladium. I get it. Don't get me wrong. I know he is dying. But the movie director completely erased like all the the character build-up and development from the first movie is crash. And destroyed. They start him off as self-arrogant again. He has no character development whatsoever. He's the partier guy. Like, we noticed in that one scene when he's drunk. I get it. Like I said, I know he's dying, and he did because he was dying. But he was a jerk to Pepper again. I don't think she should have forgave him that easily. I think there should have been more of a build-up till she forgave him. I get if it was like a cutscene, and then they got together, but like it was immediately after he was still a jerk to her. Like I said, not a fan. I feel like if they just wrote his character better, but they did acknowledge the fact he was dying and made him more like it, instead of just how they wrote him, I would have liked him more and probably liked the movie more. Number 2, Pepper Potts. She bothers me. She's not my favorite character. She gets so much better later on. She's not, to be honest, she gets better until Iron Man 3, I don't like her. Like, Infinity War and Endgame, that's when I start to be on more of her side. Especially Endgame. But she gets pissed off at Tony really easily, and this one I do give her credit for. So, she's definitely not, like, my number 1 hate list. I probably shouldn't have put her so high up. But there are a few things that bother me with her, like Tony, like, she gets really, like, flustered easily and doesn't listen to Tony. Like, when he was trying to make her CEO, she kept yelling at him. I understand her as well. Working with Tony Stark is not the easiest thing. But I don't have much on her. I just think I kind of throw her in because I'm not a huge fan of her character. This is the biggest one. Justin Hammer and the villain. I like Whiplash. He was a good villain. He had a good reason. His father getting revenge for his father. That's a good reasoning. That's a lot of villains' reasoning. I liked it. And then he was smart. He could engineer. He made all that cool weapon. He was a solid villain. Justin Hammer being like the main villain. Like, I feel like he's more as the villain. People count him as more the villain than Whiplash. Please, no. He's a very annoying to listen to, in my opinion. Like, just how he talks and like, this bothers me a lot. Like when things don't go his way, and I get it. I don't like when things go his way, especially if you're a villain and you're trying to destroy Tony Stark. But please, why do we have to make him such an important thing? Like, Whiplash at the end was almost defeating Tony with his drunk. I feel like if I'm okay with Justin Hammer being there, but if they made him more of a minor character and Whiplash more important, and then I would have liked the movie. They made him too important for such a little role he plays, and like his reasoning is terrible. Whiplash is good. I think if they just swapped like the majority of like screen time they got, it would have been better. Well, I made this like section of the video a bit long, so I'm gonna stop right here. And our next one is Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Not the Winter Soldier. I'm so sorry. Captain America: The First Avenger. And I know I said in the last clip that I was gonna do Captain America: The First Avenger. I lied. I'm doing Thor. I swapped them up. This is Thor. Okay, Thor is my favorite trilogy. I love Loki. He's my favorite character, so I really like this movie. A lot of people don't like it. There's a lot of people's not favorites. It's not my number one. Again, none of Thor movies are not my number one. You'll find out what my number one is later on. But I really like the movie. I kind of like, it feels like nostalgic, like with this, how it's made and like just like how it looks. It just makes me think of like greatness. And I obviously have a few critiques. Most of them are actually on Odin and maybe like the Norse history that was falsely accurate in this movie. Besides that, there's not much to hate on. So we'll start with the positives of this movie. Most of it is positive. The actors, I really like the actors. They did such a great job portraying them, especially like the complexity of the characters, like Chris Hemsworth playing Thor and going from a selfish, arrogant boy to someone actually worthy of Mjolnir. And then same thing with Tom Hiddleston, who plays Loki, who goes through that betrayal of finding out he's actually not Odin's son, he's Laufey's son. And it's his whole portrayal and becoming a villain due to that. And also like the shock of finding out he was the one who actually let the Frost Giant into Asgard on the day of Thor's ceremony. And I just really like the movie. A lot of people are not a huge fan of Jane and Thor. Personally, I like them a lot, especially in this movie. Dark World, not as much. This one, I'm much more of a fan of the relationship. I just feel like there's more chemistry in this one. But I also like the storyline about Loki being the villain. To be honest, he's not really a villain, in my opinion. I know people are going to hate me for that. They're going to call me a Loki lover, which I am. But he has a reason, in my opinion. Like, how would you feel if you're 1,000 years old, 1,500 years old maybe, anywhere between that, and you find out your whole life's a lie? Your father and your family isn't your actual family. The family that you actually have, your whole life you've been told they're monsters, like the race that you are, and the fact that you were told that you were going to be king and led up to believe something that you will never achieve, but your brother will. Like, I don't blame him. I might have done the same thing. But he was very cunning throughout it, and I think he does make a really good villain. In this movie and every movie, he plays the anti-hero. But like I said, I could talk about this movie forever, especially Loki. So I'm going to try to push away from that so I don't make this like really long, just like a 15-minute section of me talking about Loki. But I really like the Warriors 3, like Volstagg, Hogun, Fandral, and Sif. I really like their relationship and how they decide as soldiers and most loyal to the king, they're going to go betray him just to save their friend. It shows the true loyalty between Thor and his friends on Asgard. And then I like Darcy. I do love Darcy in this movie. And then now let's talk about my critiques. Odin. I hate him. He's a terrible father. He lied to Loki. There's been such an easier... He could have told him. He could have easily told him that's something simple. Or he could have basically just not, treat him, grown up in a household that made like Jotunheim's such an evil character. Like, he's basically telling him like, "Oh, your race is evil." Dude, come on, man. And then he's not a good father figure at all. Like, he kind of like was pinning Thor and Loki against each other in the race to be king. And he proves that he's a terrible father throughout the whole thing. Terrible. Frigga, on the other hand, she's an amazing mother. Amazing. Like, if you read the book, the Loki book, there's so many good examples of Frigga being a great mother and Odin being a terrible father. And then now I'm just gonna go to I am Norwegian myself. I'm not like straight from there, but I have my great grandfather was from Norway. So I also like about Norse mythology. So I have a huge book over there in my bookshelf. There's a lot of things inaccurate about Norse mythology in both the comics and the movies. And I get the movies are basing it off the comics. But one of my favorite things I think that is most accurate is that Loki and Thor in Norse mythology were never like brothers or adopted brothers. Loki's actually Thor's uncle, which I find hilarious. Loki and Odin are brothers themselves. They both are the son of Laufey, if I stand corrected. I might be incorrect. It's been a very long time since I read that, and it's very heavy in like information, so I get foggy every now and then. And then just the fact that Laufey's alive, he is not really. But they do have stand corrected that the Asgardians are not a fan of the Jotunheims. They are big enemies, and Thor goes out of his way a lot of times to kill them. And then I think two things that are another thing I'm just gonna mention really quickly. Thor's hammer. How we got it, it's mentioned later on in the movie in Infinity War. I had to think for a minute. Where he got it from, I can't remember the giant's name, but he did get it from a giant. In Norse mythology, he actually gets it from Loki after Loki makes Thor very angry. He does it kind of like to not get himself killed by Thor. And then the other thing I'm just going to quickly say, in the movie, it's depicted that Odin lost his eye due to Laufey in the great battle between the Frost Giants and the Asgardians. Odin did not lose his eye that way. Odin lost his eye to Mimir. I probably said that name wrong. But he lost his eye and then he was became one of the most knowledgeable person in the world besides Mimir. But besides that, the movie is great. It's a nostalgic movie that I really love, and it's one of my favorites. And yeah, so the next movie will be Captain America: The First Avenger. And now we're on Captain America: The First Avenger. Actually, I really like this movie. It was not the first Marvel movie I watched. The first Marvel movie I did watch was Spider-Man: Homecoming. But this movie is the reason I did probably continue it. Like, if it wasn't a good movie, I would not have become obsessed with Marvel. I've probably seen this movie the most due to the fact I watched it and then I watched it with my family. I've seen this so many times because I try to introduce Marvel to so many people. So I introduced this movie first, but I'm glad I introduced the movie a lot. It's an amazing movie. And I love, like, how the reason why he's fighting. Like he's just fighting because it's not to prove himself to anybody. It's just because he feels like he shouldn't be doing less than anybody. And it's just a really noble thing to do. And that's why he was given the super soldier serum, because Erskine said a good man because a better man, which is very true with Steve Rogers. So I'll be talking about the villains and the characters, obviously, and then just the plot. I'm not going to be going into full details here. There's not a lot I don't like about this movie. There's a lot more I like about this movie than I don't. The one thing there's like a few things I wish they had more in the movie. Like, I wish they had more Steve Rogers and Howard. I do like their like friendship in the few scenes we had. And I obviously think Steve didn't have to crash the plane. I feel like he could have, instead of saying like goodbye, he could have set his coordinates and like jumped out the plane. And then as the plane crashed, he could have survived. Like that, it's kind of like something I think of. I might be wrong. He might have been dead, but that's what I personally think of. And there's one thing that always gets me, but besides that, there's nothing I really can hate on this movie is at the very end when he finds out it's 2011, and he's listening to it. It's May 1941. I feel like Nick Fury did that deliberately. You know what I mean. I'm not going to try to pronounce it. Like, it's Nick Fury. He's very thorough. Why wouldn't he make it, like, after he crashed? Like, after the war? Why would he make it, like, in 41? I feel like he did it for a reason. Like, there's some purpose to that guy's Nick Fury. But besides that, there's not much I can hate about this movie. I love I do love the, Colonel. He's hilarious in this movie. He was not a fan of Skinny Steve. But I just love the movie. I love Steve's courage. I love Peggy. She's great. I love Howard. And I love all the fight scenes. I like, the Bucky and Steve combo. I like, his friend to help him in the wars. I just like the whole movie. I also really like Schmidt, the villain. I like the actor as a villain. He did a really good job. He was in The Matrix. He was also the villain in The Matrix, which I will be watching this December when the fourth one comes out. I'm not gonna get off topic. But there's actually foreshadowing about him being the Red Skull. I don't know if anybody else noticed it, but how many times I've seen this movie, this was the first time I noticed it. In the very beginning, when he first blew up that village, you can see him doing this, like kind of like grabbing his face. Maybe because there was an explosion, maybe there was something that like, caused his mask to like slip a bit. But that's something I did notice, foreshadowing that he's wearing a mask. And then this one's pretty big. And in the movie, where like he's getting his portrait done, and the scientist walks in, I know his name is kind of just literally left my mind, even though I just watched the movie. But he walks in and Schmidt turns the lights off really quickly. And you can see in his shadow he's bald. He doesn't have his like swoosh of hair. And you see the scientist looking, like the scientist doctor, he's looking at the artist's palette, which has an assortment of red on it. And I think that's just a really creative way of showing that this, like foreshadowing that he's wearing a mask and he's actually the Red Skull. And that's something I just noticed this recently. But this is a really good movie. I think this is like, if you're watching it in like timeline order, like, and not chronological, like if you go on Disney Plus, they have it in order. So it's like Captain America and then like Captain Marvel. This would be an excellent movie to get you into Marvel, because there's not many bad things about it. There's humor, there's action, there's friendship, there's like a suspense, there's everything in this movie. And there's a few scenes like where they cut out, like, that I really enjoy, like the one scene where Steve's like jumping over the fiery pit after Schmidt blew up like the base, and then it cuts to the Colonel saying that he declares Rogers passed away in battle. I just love that. It's just a great movie. I'm kind of at a loss of words, which is like, I know I'm supposed to give my opinions on it, but like, it's just such a good movie. It's hard to give opinions on, you know? But there's amazing action, and I am going to say this. This is Steve Rogers, hands down his best outfit. Hands down. Like, it was just perfect. It was beautiful. Like, Avengers' outfit was terrible. That was probably the worst outfit they gave Steve. And I did like Bucky in this movie. I like Bucky and the other stuff, but like, I like him when he's not the Winter Soldier, like, or pre-Soldier Bucky, I would say. But besides that, this movie is one of the best movies in Marvel, and I love it. And the last opinion I'll be giving will be on the Avengers, which is my favorite Avenger movie. Like, like Avengers, Age of Ultron, Infinity, and Endgame. The first one is definitely my favorite, so, and I do have a lot of opinions on that one, so you be ready. And we are back for the final opinion of Phase 1, Avengers. There's a lot of things I love about this movie. Like I said, this is my favorite Avenger movie. So we're going to start off with the pros, obviously, and then we'll go into the cons. Pros. We have Nick Fury, Maria Hill, Phil Coulson. We get to see S.H.I.E.L.D. a bit more clearly. And then we also get to see what they do, like their threats. Like, they aren't good guys. They are, but they aren't, you know? Like, we can see later on, Nick Fury, about their Phase 2, they had weapons of mass destruction due to their fear of space creatures, thanks to Thor. So there's a complexity of it, and you can see we thought S.H.I.E.L.D.'s a good guy, but they are a secret organization that is meant to deal with kind of like troublemakers. So I really like that. And then we get to see all the original 6 Avengers together. We have met most of them in the previous movies except Bruce, which most people already knew about him from the Incredible Hulk movie with Edward Norton in it. But this one is the one with Mark Ruffalo. Personally, this is one of my favorite like Hulk Mark Ruffalo movies. This one, Age of Ultron, this is probably my favorite of him. We also get like to see the connections between them, like why are they such a good team? Like, because we get to see them bonding, and we go from not liking each other at all, there being like only a very few, maybe like 2 liking each other. Like we had Bruce and Tony, and then we had Natasha and Clint already had it before Clint was brainwashed by Loki. And then we can also see like kind of like enemies on it. Like we see Tony and Steve. Steve was actually kind of an enemy of everyone. And then Thor was kind of just there. Like he was like friends and not friends with everybody. And then at the very end when they're having to defeat Loki, you can see they all became friends and allies instead of one just being there and the other being friends and their enemies. They're all connected eventually. And I think it was the final moment when they're all in a circle, like they're united together. And it's thanks to Loki and like Phil. Like if Loki hadn't come down and kill Phil Coulson, which we know he didn't. If you watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., if you haven't seen that, I'm so sorry. I just spoiled it for you. I haven't seen the whole show either, so please don't spoil the rest for me. Yeah. But if he hadn't done it, they would have never gone together. And it's kind of like what Nick Fury said, they need a reason to get together. Which, there's a reason. And there's also a lot of like humor in this movie. You get a lot of it. There's also very iconic scenes in it, like just so many, like the circle, like I said, a lot of the fighting. And there is humor, and there's like such intense scenes, like when Natasha tricked Loki, the god of mischief. You'll see it was really good, and you just get like Tony eating the blueberries, which is an improvised scene from Robert Downey Jr. And it's just such a good movie because you get to see it has every good part of it, which I love about this movie. And I love Loki in this movie. Like, he was such a good villain, like brainwashing people to do it as he was being brainwashed by himself, both by Thanos. And you can see the Mind Stone just alters people, and that's why maybe Loki didn't realize he was being brainwashed. Like, Clint kind of knew he was, like, but he was it's like a surface, like he had the person being controlled, and like him in the back knowing he was being controlled. But I don't know if Loki knew it because he thought he was in control, but with the Mind Stone scepter, it was subtly controlling him, and you can see that every now and then with his actions, especially at the beginning when he could tell he didn't look good, like at all. He looked terrible at the beginning. And you can see he slowly looks better, and I'm gonna guess that's because he was away from Thanos and away from the Chitauri. And I don't know if he realized he had been tortured that much at the beginning, because I think he was being influenced to forget that, to work with him. That's what I personally think. But there's so many, he's just such a good villain, and Tom Hiddleston does him amazing. He does such a great performance. And you can see, there's one scene, like, where Thor's like, look, brother, you don't have to do this, but he's like, you can't stop, and he has look in her eye like he's regretting it, and then he stabs Thor. Like, he'll act innocent, but he's just acting, and it fools you. You think of immediately. You see that a lot of the other Loki stuff, like Thor: The Dark World. When we get to that movie, I will tell you every time Loki fooled me because it was a lot. But the movie is such a great, and you get to see the struggles of characters like Bruce. You think, oh, he's a superhero. How can he have a rep? And he says, you can see he didn't live a fabulous life. He lived a struggle. He was hiding. It was, yeah. I'm trying to think of cons for this movie. There's not many. I think this movie was filmed perfectly. There's actually foreshadowing. Like, we hear Dreykov's daughter, which we learned in the Black Widow movie, why she looks so scared about that, and how Clint knew, because they both played a part of that in the Black Widow movie. It's just, this movie is fabulous. I have almost no critiques about it whatsoever. Not off the top of my head, as I do, they're very small, like, so small that I'm not even thinking of them when I'm supposed to be giving my opinions, and I literally just finished it a minute ago, and it wasn't like I watched it half and half. I just watched it straight through. But, so, that's basically my opinion for Avengers, and my opinion is for Phase 1. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you want to, you can comment down below, like, a movie that you enjoyed hearing about my opinion, and maybe I'll just give a video and make it more detailed, and because I'm not trying to squeeze 5 movies into a video, I can have one movie in a long video. Or you can tell me movies that aren't a part of Marvel or like franchises you would like me to give my opinions on. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I will see you in about next week when I finish Phase 2.